This goes to the point about recording. I just started now the recording, which also means that I am informing you that the meeting is recorded, meaning that if any of you has anything against, you have to tell us, and possibly you are not going to continue with the meeting, because that's actually the legal procedure. We need to inform you that the meeting is recorded. If you are against, then basically you leave, apparently. So I think I said everything for the organization. I don't see questions. Okay, somebody doesn't see the presentation. I see it, so just check your settings, because normally everything is working. Okay, so I give the floor now to Benoit for the first presentation.
Thank you, Manuela. Good morning again to all of you. Welcome to this first SESAR 3 GU Information Day. So I'm very glad to note the interest to the SESAR program. I think we are close to 400 people now connected, and I see that there are still people connecting. So I think this demonstrates really the interest to the SESAR 3 program. So after the Digital Sky demonstrator call, which was already launched in September, and this was done in coordination with CINEA, this second key milestone is allowing SESAR 3 GU to launch the research activities of the SESAR 3 program. And clearly, our objective with this SESAR 3 program is to move the European air traffic management into the digital age. Clearly, we need to raise our game on aviation infrastructure. Today, thousands of aircraft are flying in the sky, mainly traditional piloted aircraft and rotorcraft with limited connectivity. Tomorrow, hundreds of thousands of connected flying devices with high connectivity and increased autonomous flying capabilities will have to be managed. The future traffic volumes, the evolution of mobility services together with growing environmental concerns, all of these call for more radical transformation of the ATM. The new vision aiming at delivering a digital European sky by 2040 is made of a strong air-ground integration within fully scalable ATC systems, integrated in a digital ecosystem, exploiting the potential offered by the next generation of aircraft for cleaner flights, integrating manned and unmanned flying devices, and eliminating the environmental inefficiencies caused by the current aviation infrastructure, so simply said, transitioning to greener aviation. The instrument to implement the vision is the SESAR 3 joint undertaking and its research innovation program. A key objective for us is to accelerate the research life cycle and to deliver SESAR solutions for a quick market uptake. In particular, we will call for agile methodologies for validating the SESAR solution, and this will be part of the fast-track approach that will be addressed later on during this information day. So far, more than 50 founding members are committed to contribute to the SESAR 3 joint undertaking. These members are representing the entire aviation value chain, including, of course, the new entrants. The SESAR 3 GU has a key role in ensuring the interface between all these actors and facilitating an effective collaborative approach. In terms of budget, 600 million euros are provided by the Commission through the Horizon Europe program. Up to 500 million euros will be provided by Eurocontrol, and an additional 500 million euros will come as well from the industry. Finally, additional funds to the value of 200 million euros will be made available for the Digital Sky demonstrators. It will be done via the Connecting Europe facility and the calls, again, will be coordinated with and by SINEA. The Digital European Sky program is connected to policy and regulation. The SESAR 3GU is the technical arm of the Single European Sky initiative. It covers the definition of the ATM evolutions required by the policy, but also the development of the SESAR solutions throughout the innovation pipeline. Of course, the objective at the end of the day being to deliver SESAR solutions ready for deployment. So the key input to the Digital Sky program is the ATM Master Plan 2020 that defines the vision. And the Master Plan 2020 is complemented by the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, SRIA, that further describes the high-level research and innovation needs. So the Master Plan 2020 vision and the high-level research and innovation needs have been translated into concrete principles and activities that you can find within two strategic documents. These two documents are available in the call material uploaded on the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal. The first one, which is the multi-annual work program, established the framework for the definition, planning, and the execution of all of the SESAR 3GU operations along the full life cycle of the joint undertaking. So, from 2021 up to 2031. This multi-annual work program also defines the overall life cycle of the research and innovation program, and also addressing the main principles for the budget allocation. More important for you is the second document called biannual work program. This document outlines all the R&I activities that will have to be performed during the years 2022-2023. So in particular, you need to look to the annexes of the document to find the calls conditions and the technical content for both calls. So you have here the reference in the section 2.1 of the Annex 2. You will find the call conditions and technical content, technical requirements for the exploratory research call. And within the section 2.2 of the same annex, you will retrieve all the required requirements and conditions for the industrial research that includes the fast-track activities. Within the multi-annual work program, you will also find this picture that shows the different calls the SESAR 3GU intends to launch along the life cycle of the program. Today, we will only focus on the first exploratory research call and the first industrial research call that includes, again, the fast-track innovation and uptake activities. So the two calls that are highlighted with the red rectangle. In terms of high-level schedule, the publication of the calls was done already on the 7th of April. Today, we have the information day. The deadline is set on 13th of October, and we expect to perform all the required evaluation and the preparation of the grant and the signature of the grant before summer 2023 to allow launching all the awarded project into execution. To deliver the Digital European Sky, 9 flagships have been identified in the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, along with their high-level R&I needs. When you will be looking to the proposal template, which are available now on the portal, you will also find a reference to the word destination. So please consider the flagship as the destination for Horizon Europe. So these flagships are the current backbone of the program, They represent the streams across the R&I pipeline, wherein we hook the different R&I topics. So in terms of structure, you see that, again, we apply the 9 flagships, as I would say, the horizontal streams across the different research and innovation pillars. We have been also identifying working area per R&I pillar. Each working area is addressing some flagships, not always all of them. And in particular, we have 2 working areas that are focusing on a specific flagship, like the work area 2 for the industrial research goal focusing on aviation Green Deal, and the work area 4 in the fast track innovation and uptake pillar focusing on EU space and urban air mobility. The topics have been defined within the work area and of course per or according to the relevant flagship. A specific budget has been allocated to each working area to secure addressing them. So within the following presentation, you will get additional information per call, but also according to the different working area. They will be briefly presented to you with the aim as well of highlighting some key messages. So to conclude, I wish you a useful information day and already all the best for answering to the calls. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Benoit. I see that you did not get any questions during your presentation, so I guess it was extremely clear. So now I give the floor to Luca for the presentation on exploratory research.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and I hope you can hear me. I'm a little bit far from the mic, so if you don't hear me well, just please write in the chat. Anyway, I'm Luca Greco, and I am an ATM expert here at the F2JU, and I'm giving you a quick overview, as Benoit said, about the first exploratory research call. Before the WebEx, I was just quickly counting the number of bullet points and the number of indeed content that is in the call, and it's more than 100 bullet points or 100, let's say, R&I needs, research direction. So this is just to give you the flavor about how big it is and how today we don't really have time to go through them one by one, but really is the main scope is to pass on to you, as Benoit said, some key messages. So first of all, as you will also read in the exploratory research proposal template that is available among the material attached to the call, the proposals we are expecting to receive shall, in particular, try and will have to demonstrate a high potential contribution to establishing Europe as the most environmentally friendly to fly in the world. So, like really focusing on the environmental aspect, and the in fact, one of the flagships is the Green Deal one. Have to demonstrate a significant contribution to the realization of the Digital European Sky vision, so the SESAR phase B, which is actually the SRIA, the SESAR Research and Innovation, Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, and will have to demonstrate a clear breakthrough potential compared to what is known as business as usual in long terms, where for long terms you may refer to 2028, 2029, but for exploratory research, it also goes beyond that. As Benoit said before, there are struggling with the remote. There are 3 working areas working area 1 is about fundamental science and outreach, and it comprises the research necessary to develop new concepts of ATM beyond those identified in the European ATM Master Plan. So, to be clear, here, especially in the fundamental research, we are really seeking and looking for new concepts, new ideas. Sometimes I like to call them new research directions, which have not been identified or clearly identified in the European ATM Master Plan. We need to understand, and we really want to see what is the challenge, and the proposal that you will likely submit has to highlight what the challenge or the challenges are. One important piece of information referred to the call. Sorry for the police or ambulance or something driving by the SG premises, but it's out of our control. The list that you will find in the call is not intended as prescriptive. And this is very important because your proposals, or anyway proposals for work on areas other than those listed in the call, will be very welcome, provided that they include adequate background and justification to ensure clear traceability with the STRIA R&I needs of a given topic. So this means we identified some new concepts, but we also want to leave you free to think out of the box and to come back to the SJU with some proposals, with some new challenges, with something we didn't think about. For working area 1, the proposals will have to target tier 1, or let's say at least tier 1. What you see on the bottom of the slide in italic font is basically is not even cherry picking selection of topics or concepts or areas. It's just an example to give you an example of what you can find in the call. For example, moving from magnetic to geographic bearings, the use of the SVR, the slant visual range, on top or beyond the runway visual range, which is currently used. The development of methodologies for environmental impact assessments in use-based operations. Moving to completely different topics, we are proposing something about quantum computing application in ATM, or application of business intelligence to the network manager, to the NM organization. Moving again to completely different flagship or direction, as Benoit mentioned before. The role of UAM, urban air mobility, impact on multimodality and environment, which are again something linked to environment as well. Linked again to environment, to the aviation Green Deal flagship is the atmospheric physics for aviation, mostly focusing on non-CO2 and extreme weather events. Moving to another flagship is human-centric AI and artificial intelligence for higher level of automations, according to the, I think, well-known 5 levels of automation that you can find in the ATM Master Plan. And this is for work area 1. Moving to work area 2, which is ATM application-oriented research. It comprises the research aiming at reaching the results from, indeed, the ATM application-oriented research with the higher maturity research performed in the industrial research activities. providing therefore the necessary support to the ATM change. Here, the challenge is not really to come up with something completely new, with a brand new idea. Here, it's basically continuing the work established or carried on in fundamental research, and to demonstrate that there is indeed a clear application of the concept for industrial research and for higher level of maturity. Again, the list is not intended as prescriptive. I'm not repeating myself. The logic and the rationale behind this statement is the same. Feel free to come back to us with something that is not defined in the core, but at least ensure that there is a clear traceability with the RNA needs defined in the core and in the sphere. The target is a higher tier level, tier 2, which is the tier level required to inject the work, to inject the outcomes into the industrial research. Again, very few examples. Trajectory-based operation, machine-to-machine, flight deck to ATC or negotiation, digital couple aim and dim function, frequency management here. Okay, maybe the title is not really self-explanatory. We are trying to assess and to research from a gate-to-gate perspective on the possibility to have, for example, automatic frequency selection for the communications between the pilots, the crews, and the outgoes. Another one, advanced air-ground integration for general aviation. We're looking for proposals for future digital network services, improved prediction on the network evolution, possibly new virtualization business models. We want to research more on the multimodal governance, and this is clearly a step forward with respect to what we are researching now in the current ER4 expert research of SESAR 2020. We want to hopefully get some proposals on the geometric altimetry, so moving from barometric altimetry, barometric pressure approach to geometric altimetry. And we want to hopefully receive some proposals of AI applications for complex operations. And this is about work area 2. The last one is work area 3, which is about the knowledge transfer network. This is clearly building on the knowledge transfer network that has been developed during SESAR 2020. The challenge here is to keep the exploratory research world and the industrial research world and members aligned and connected. In fact, we want to support and encourage what we call collaborative research between exploratory and industrial research members on future and emerging innovative ideas and expertise. Here, the focus is also on the expertise. So the focus is also on the people. And if you read in brackets, further nurture the European future ATM skilled workforce, this statement can be familiar to maybe some of you, because it really links to the vision and the mission of the SESAR Digital Academy. And this is, in fact, one key message that I would like to pass on to you. If you will be applying for the work area 3, you need to consider the work already being developed by the current knowledge transfer network, such as, for example, the wiki, such as, for example, the ATM concepts roadmap. But you will also have to read carefully the call and definitely include the support to the SESAR 3JU about the digital academy. And this is kind of, let's say, novelty with respect to the current knowledge transfer network. And I think that's all from my side. It's a very quick overview. I understand that. I don't know if there will be questions later on, but I will be available to reply questions later on or even offline if it's the case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luca. I see that you didn't get questions, so that was also extremely clear. So now I'm pleased to give the floor to our colleague Alfredo, who will present you the Industrial Research Call. Alfredo, the floor is yours. Yes, I will unmute you. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I think there is some echo somewhere. Maybe you have to. Yeah, I think that's better. So hello everybody, I'm Alfredo Gomez. I'm working on the SEU and I've been coordinating and participating in the elaboration of the technical specifications, or let's say the technical content that you have seen in the biannual work program. And I will introduce the overview of the content of the different working areas in industrial research that basically reflects a step forward in terms of maturity with respect to the exploratory research working areas that were explained by Luca just before. So next slide. Just maybe before starting, I would apologize because I'm at home. I'm fighting still COVID. So if my voice breaks or I start coughing, just bear that in mind. That's the reason why. Maybe before describing the different working areas in industrial research, just a recap of the SESAR 3 program principles that are explained in the industrial research proposal template in section 2.1. That, as Lucas mentioned before on the exploratory research, are principles that you should bear in mind when applying for the different topics if you are interested on. So first of all, the proposals shall demonstrate a high potential contribution for environmental friendly ATM. So basically to trying to improve the environmental sustainability of ATM in Europe, or the Asian Green Deal. There is a specific area you will see later on areas or working areas that are trying to complete what we call phase C of the master plan, basically to cover and to complete elements that could not be finally validated in SESAR 2020. There shall be as well clear contribution to the realization of the digital sky, the digital European sky vision, what we call SESAR 20. Also bear in mind as well that in this improvement we are trying to find solutions that are
high level.
Sorry, somebody.
Is het met DGAC en in de programma gaan waarschijnlijk hackathon zijn of ergens als mee.
You need to unmute you
Dus
all.
we kijken hoe dat Unifly met UTM.
Can we ask the one who is speaking?
Safran is ook een van de excisie.
Hallo, to mute.
Safran is ook een van de.
Voilà. Alfredo, can you unmute you again?
Yes, yes, it's okay. Okay, fine. So as I was in the fourth principle, that we are trying to find out, let's say, solutions that can be used at a European level. So if you should make an effort to propose solutions that are beyond the local needs. And we are trying to find out, solutions that are clearly contributing to standardization and regulation. And finally, to provide solutions that actually propose or represent a clear breakthrough potential with respect to, for example, business as usual. So, and this can be done both for medium and long terms. So these are the general principles that you have to bear in mind. And then now we can start describing the different working areas. The first one is a little bit different from the rest. Is what we call transversal activities. And as you have seen in the manual work program, these are the type of actions in Europe that are a little bit different from the innovation ones. These are called coordination and support actions, and they are, let's say, in support of the program needs under the leadership of the SESAR 3 EU. There are different areas in these transversal activities. So the first one is dealing with performance management and network impact assessment. Here we are talking about the maintenance of the performance framework, the SESAR performance framework, that provides the list of key performance indicators and key performance areas that the different solutions should measure. And also on providing let's say, coaching or training on the different methodologies to be applied for the assessment of areas like safety, security, or whatever it is needed at the level of the program. This area as well is also related to the consolidation of the performance assessment done by individual projects. So while the performance assessment per se is responsibility and will be responsibility of the different solution projects, this transversal activity will pick up and collect the different performance benefits shown by different solutions, and will try to aggregate and to provide an overview of these performance benefits at European level. And will be as well in charge of analyzing a gap analysis to see in which areas we need to have additional activities or to make an additional effort to ensure that we are achieving the level of performance ambition in the master plan. And also there is finally an area that is dealing with a service called like multi-solution impact assessment that will support the integration and the performance assessment while putting different solutions together in Europe. The second big area is on the master plan and monitoring. Here we are talking about the master plan level 3 planning and reporting. So typically, to what extent the SESAR solutions that have been developed in SESAR are being deployed in Europe. The elaboration of consolidated CBAs at a higher level than the solution per se. The development of deployment scenarios, so how these SESAR solutions that we are developing would be deployed in Europe. And finally, other additional support activities depending on the SESAR 3 EU request. And this can be done, this can be, for example, typically content integration activities, or for example, the master plan level 1 campaign if there is a need to actually have it in the near future. Okay. So next one. Here we are starting with the working areas that are dealing with industrial research and validation, but on, let's say, typically innovation actions, like this one that is focused on aviation Green Deal. The goal of this working area is actually to propose solutions that could contribute to the European Green Deal and the objective of reducing significantly the level of greenhouse emissions in transport by 2020. The key important element to consider is that the challenges that are identified in this working area cover both the global and local environmental impacts. So it's not only just a local airport problem or issue, but trying to have a look at all the different dimensions of the environmental sustainability and try to propose solutions on different areas. Like any industrial research project, the target ideally should be TL6, trying to achieve that level of maturity. And as Luca explained before, the list of bullet points that you see below, there are 4 examples of the many that could be actually proposed in your proposals to achieve those challenges and the objective of improving environmental sustainability in Europe. Okay, so the first one is wake energy retrieval. This is known as well as formation flying. We are trying as well to have as many as flexible, eco-friendly clearances, to define as well the trajectory-based operations trajectory revision process via CPDLC uplink, or the concept of green ATC capacity that tries to take into consideration environmental elements for defining the ATC capacity in Europe. Okay. Next one. This is on working area 3 that is focused on the rest of the topics beyond the Aviation Green Deal. And the intention on the ambition is to address phase D of the ITA Master Plan 2020. As it is described in this document, in the ITA Master Plan 2020, there is an idea or a definition of what this phase D would mean. It is important for you to know as well that if you have a look at the technical specifications, there is not a list of prescriptive set of SESAR solutions that will happen in the next working area that I will explain later on. They are, let's say, a set of challenges that can be met by as many solutions as we could think of. And the list of elements that are in the technical specifications or the examples that you see here are basically a description or a potential set of solutions, but not the only ones. The idea as well is to target TRL6, but in this case, I think if you have a look at the technical specifications, the work program, we are not, let's say, specific on whether all the different elements should be TRL6 per se. So if justified, oh, I don't see the presentation. Sorry.
Sorry, we lost the presentation. Yeah. Do you see it now?
Yes, but you have the next one.
Yes.
So in a nutshell, what we mean by the phase D of the master plan is basically to achieve a set of fully scalable services supported by a digital ecosystem. We are talking about the next generation of ATC platforms that will deliver trajectory-based operations with increased level of virtualization, resilient and efficient airport operations. And in this case, we are thinking about airports that are integrated into the multi-annual, also into the multimodal system, and passenger-centric, trying to improve the passenger experience. We are talking about as well single pilot operations and the delegation of separation responsibility to system assistants. And we are trying to achieve a level of automations that are, let's say, level 4 and 5, as described in the ITA Master Plan, where we are aiming at, let's say, a system where automation can actually initiate any action for most of, if not all, the different tasks. Next one. This working area 6 is a particular one, and this is basically to complete the ambition of the master plan phase C. So this basically what we are trying to do in this working area is to complete those elements that could not complete TL6 in SESAR 2020. If you have a look at the technical specifications, in this case, we are very specific on the target maturity level we want to achieve for all these solutions, meaning that any of them will have to complete TL6 at the end of the project activities. This will be the only or the last opportunity to address in SESAR 3 any element dealing with phase C. And as you have seen in the technical specifications or the work program, we are talking here about prescriptive solutions because there are solutions that were identified in the master plan phase C, and they have been addressed to some level of maturity within SESAR 2020. The list below is just again a selection of those solutions that have been retained for SESAR 3. But it is important to consider that when you have a look at this list of solutions, the list of solutions are what we call key R&D solutions in the Master Plan 2020. So we are really focusing on ensuring that key elements that are still remaining to be done from phase C are fully completed in SESAR 2020. So in SESAR, sorry. One final point that is important for you to know as well is that in this area, there is the possibility to propose integrated validation activities that are basically validation activities that try to put together different solutions that were validated in the past up to TRL6 or close to TRL6 and try to confirm that there is no issue when validating them together when thinking about the deployment of the joint deployment of the solutions in a given environment. Okay.
Okay. There is a question for you, Alfredo, in case you want to take it now. It's about work area air-ground integration. I don't know if you want to take it now since we're okay with the timing. Do you see the question from Jonas?
Yes, I see it. Maybe we can have a look at that later on.
Okay. Okay. So we will take this question for the question and answer session.
Yeah. Now, before going on to the last two working areas that are on FOSS or working on, let's say, fast tracks, maybe just a reminder of what we think they are fast tracks. So fast tracks for us are projects or activities that will actually help us accelerate the delivery of specific solutions that are highly innovative and that will, let's say, be delivered up to TRL7 using methodologies that, let's say, are innovative as well and try to shorten the time for availability to the market. So the objective for the fast tracks are, as you see, TRL7. The projects could start from a very low level of maturity, but the intention, again, is in a short time frame, like 2-3 years, to achieve a level of maturity that is close to put in place in the market. It is important as well, and you will see in the following slides, that we will pay special attention to the definition of the methodologies that you will apply to achieve this objective of TRL7 in such a short term. Maybe we can pass to the next one. So the first one, the working area 4, is on fast tracks for use space. Basically, we're trying to cover use space advanced services in U3, the definition of new services for U4, the interaction between use space and ATM to enable urban air mobility autonomous operations, the use of use space services for other users like general aviation and rotorcraft, and solutions that would help to ensure the environmental sustainability and social acceptance of use space activities. Again, the intention is to increase the level of maturity rapidly from imagine TRL2 to TRL7. And again, it is important that the methodology you will apply to achieve such a challenging objective will be described in the proposal in the template section 1.2. And then finally, the last one is the fast tracks to cover all the rest of topics that are not use space related, that will cover capacity on demand and dynamic airspace, virtualization, multimodality and passenger experience, and artificial intelligence. So the list of examples that you see here is just, again, a list of potential solutions that could be presented. So one is, for example, digital solutions that are aiming at improving cyber resilience in ATM, artificial intelligence applications, service-oriented approach to CNS infrastructure, solutions improving or using, let's say, the human artificial intelligence collaboration, and solutions like the integrated transport network crisis management that helps the system to overcome crises like that. Okay. And I think that's a summary of all the different working areas so far.
Yeah. You got a couple of questions. I suggest that we take them all in the dedicated session. I also that the last question might be even liaised with the next presentation because it's about data path.
It's about the process.
So might go to search. Maybe just one clarification about one typo that we had in the third slide you presented. It was about the timing for the objective of the Green Deal. It's not 2020, it's 2050.
It's 2050, correct.
So that is typo. Voilà, so for,
yes, it's a typo.
Otherwise, we move.
Yes.
We thank you very much, Alfredo, and we move to Serge for the presentation on program management.
Good morning to all. So after this introduction to the different content of the call, I'm going to introduce briefly to you the program management principle that we apply in SESAR 3, the third time of SESAR, and which is a continuation of the SESAR 1 and SESAR 2020 program that we have already launched, on which we have built some experience and knowledge, and that we continue to apply for the intend to apply for the SESAR 3 program. So that's my presentation. Quick. Okay. So the basic principles are also taken from the proposal template and can be summed up or illustrated around the 4 key milestones or key elements, key requirements. The first one is really the description of the standardizations and regulatory state of the art the development of your project at the beginning. That's in order to maximize the impact towards industrialization. So that's a really important point for us as we are aiming to deliver, I think explained previously mainly by Alfredo, that we're aiming to deliver mature solutions, mature outputs that we could transition easily and quickly to the market uptake and to the industrialization activity and deployment. Second point is also linked to that. It's really to identify and present the strategy to develop and consolidate the standardization regulatory needs that's in support of the transitions that I've just introduced to you. And for that, we will need to understand and to have a clear evidence of how you will involve and you will be working with the appropriate bodies like standardization development offices or national supervisory authorities or EASA and so on as appropriate. Third requirement from a high-level perspective of the program management is to ensure that you plan to actively monitor and implement the principle required by the European Commission and by all of us. It's around the dissemination, exploitation, and communication. And this is really a key in our activity. We are not doing research in our corner. We are doing research and development activity, research and installation activities, and we need to communicate about that and to also to disseminate what we are doing towards the global industry. Last point, it's about the need to have a clear work plan, including what we call SESAR solutions, which should be coming out of the different topics which were introduced by my colleagues before, including associated to each definitions and descriptions, the expected performance, as well a performance-oriented program, and we really need to improve the performance of European ATM. So that's the reason why this is important to be considered already in the work plan of any proposal. And also, as any work plan, you will need to associate the different resources. And in the resources, it will be important not just to plan the technical work that you aim to do on the corner, but also the need to be integrated in the program, which requires some work with transversal projects, as introduced by Alfredo recently, and also coordination with us, SESAR 3GU, as a program management. We will need to ensure the continued integrated output of the program. So that's the top level program management. But the first point, so that's coming to the following slide. So the program management reference is all captured in the project handbook, which is applicable for all calls that we present today, exploratory research and industrial research calls. Okay, and this is a call material. This project handbook has been attached. recently to the call material, so it's fully available to all of you. It ensures the programmatic management of all projects. As I say, we aim to integrate all individual projects that we will select from out of the proposal in the global framework of the program. And it's very important that the basic principles are well understood and well described in each of the proposals, so that this integration is facilitated and we will have a good collaboration and working together. So that's the main principle. I'm going to not detail every element of the project handbook, obviously, that's available, but I'm going to highlight some of the key elements that we would like to communicate to you today. The first element is the link between the grant management, which is the necessary foundation of any proposal that will be selected, and the program management. So program management, we will identify some key milestones all along the life of the lifetime of the project, starting with the project kickoff. So at the kickoff, we will have some expectation that I will come back on later on, just after that, and we'll focus on the quality of the understanding of the proposal in the context of the proposal itself, but in the context also of the overall program. And that will be very important for us to understand, in particular, what work activities each project is expecting to do, which objective he has in terms of exit maturity level, in terms of SESAR solution, and in terms of performance that is aiming to achieve. This will be associated with, at the project kickoff, with a clear schedule, a decomposed schedule that we will work on together for the one which will be selected. Then we'll have key milestones which are mandatory, let's say. So at the T0+3, we expect to receive a program management plan, a communication dissemination expectation plan, and standardization and regulatory needs. So that means that coming from the proposal, there will be a few times to develop this material that we will introduce during kickoff meeting in terms of templates. And that means that the proposal should already contain the basics for this information. And that's what will be important for you to consider in your proposal, to consider how to address these key expectations. Another important milestone later on will be the project review, which is a milestone at which we will perform a full assessment of the project, progress and content. And that's also something that you need to plan in your schedule, so that you have also all the resource and all the activity focusing on these milestones, and be ready to be reviewed and assessed together. And the last but not least important point is the exit maturity gate, as introduced for each of the topics previously by my colleagues Luca and Alfredo. So this exit maturity gate for each project or outputs, what we call SESAR solution, will have to be done at the latest 2 months prior to the end of the project. It could be done earlier if the project is considered that it's ready earlier. This is a milestone that has to be defined. In addition, there's additional milestones that you will define in your project, which are relative to the deliverables, construction and development. We highly invited you to consider iterative creation of the deliverable with initial version, intermediate version, final versions. This should be clearly identified in your project schedule. And also, we will expect to have some milestone concerning the preparation of the REPA process, which is part of the grant management process, at which you will have to not only prepare the technical material expected, technical and financial material expected by the European Commission through the Horizon Europe principles and templates, but also we will expect to have for you preparation of the inputs, project input to review, like the self-maturity assessment, and I'm going to introduce what does that mean for us, and the demonstration approach, and also the update on the standardization and regulatory needs, and the communication dissemination exploitation plan. So this, you will see in this diagram that there's just one milestone on that. You may have several milestones depending on the timeline of the project. The last important point is that you need and we expect to have a regular coordination between project and SESAR-GU to ensure quality of the delivery. Our game is not just to let you run alone and then discover at the 2 months prior to the end of the project, at the exit maturity gate, that the project is not meeting the expectations. We expect to have regular intermediate progress and coordination together, so that requires effort, that requires some intermediate milestones that you will have to plan, so that we have confidence that you are aiming to work in this principle. If I'm just focusing on the kickoff meeting, and the reason I'm focusing on the kickoff meeting, because that would be the first moment, 1 month after the start of the selected project, at which we'll go deeply inside the content of the project. But in order to have a very positive kickoff meeting, we need to have a very good proposal. We'll have selection criteria. So if you want to go through the selection criteria and be part of the kickoff meeting, we expect that you consider the following elements, which are about the definition, a clear definition of SESAR solution for the project which are aiming to deliver SESAR solution, meaning nearly all proposals except the transversal ones. So for that, we need to expect a SESAR solution title, definition, description, with a clear initial maturity level, with a clear target exit maturity level, and the performance expectation for each of the SESAR solutions that you are aiming to address. All this is explained in detail. What does that mean in the project handbook, indeed, and I will just overflow that later on. We need to have a good work breakdown structure. And for that, we expect in this work breakdown structure to have 1 SESAR solution development per work package. That's a clear requirement for us. We don't want to have inside the work package several SESAR solutions developed. Okay, we need to be able to monitor and to isolate each package of work. Then you will have to have a clear development of the resource, including, I repeat and I insist upon that, the collaboration, the resource necessary to ensure a good collaboration work with SESAR-GU, which require a strong program management team with all appropriate resources to work with SESAR-GU, but also to work with the transversal project. As explained by, introduced previously, this transversal project would have 2 flavors. One is performance, one is more master plan oriented. And so for that, you need to have good relays, good support in your program management team to address all the necessary expertise expected for this coordination. And also, you need to have the resource necessary to have the correct involvement with the national authorities and EASA. Last but not least is the communication approach. There's a need, a requirement to have in the proposal, and that also a selection criteria already a good, an initial plan on the communication, dissemination, and exploitation, and that's what we will assess already at the kickoff meeting. So it's important that this point is taken clearly into account in the proposal construction. I have to go back. I don't know what. So let's focus on what we call a SESAR solution. You have been introduced to different topics areas. And some of us already introduced the notion of SESAR solution, which is the output that we want to table, to document, and to share with the people which will be in charge of the deployment, installation of the activity, to secure that indeed we are deploying the European master plan. We are progressing in the improvement of the quality and the performance of the European ITM architecture and infrastructure. So a SESAR solution is a deployable ATM improvement in a relevant operating environment. So it is really very clearly scoped for us, and you need to consider that, and you will be able to question if need that in detail with us. But we will clarify that and we scope that in a very important way. So it should be defined, it should be fully described according to the ATM master plan vision. So you have all the material necessary to understand this vision if you're not familiar with it, and you should be able to hook to one of the ATM master plan vision to justify the SESAR solution that you would like to address. It should be characterized with expected performance in terms of key performance area or key performance indicators. This also is provided in the project handbook to have the frame of the element that we consider. And you will have also to identify and to present the initial and the target exit maturity levels for each of the SESAR solutions. I repeat, because this is very important for us, that we expect to have one SESAR solution per work package in your work requirement structure, in the structure of your project. And if we want to have especially a focus on the transversal activity linked to the content integration, what do we mean by that is that we are not expecting that you are developing each SESAR solution in your corner in the isolated manner. A SESAR solution is one piece of the global European ATM architecture, and for that, we'll require that you perform an architecture modeling of the SESAR solution as soon as you are starting to address the TRL4 level of maturity, and then you will consolidate up to TRL6. This will require to be integrated, this modeling will be integrated with the global SESAR architecture model, which will be managed in coordination with the support of the transversal activities or transversal projects, and will provide you with the different methods and guidance at the kickoff meeting in order to support that. Why we insist on that is that you need to plan the appropriate resource and competence to perform this very important objective to have a global integrated solution development. In terms of deliverable, technical deliverable, so here you will see that you will find for each of the different calls, so in the green, the exploratory research call, in blue, light blue, let's say, the industrial research call, and the last column is about the digital European sky, but we're not going to speak about that today. So for each of the two main calls of today, the green and the light blue, and the different topics associated inside each of these calls, you identify the key deliverable that we expect to be delivered, to be produced by each of the projects, and that you have to consider in your proposal. You see that there's a difference between whether you are in exploratory research, fundamental research, or applied research. Industrial research and fast track to innovation and uptake have the same set of technical deliverables to be produced. These deliverables should be all contractual, so identified in your proposal as to be delivered, and should be expected to be public. Why public? Is because we are aiming to deliver solutions that should be deployable at the European scale, even if not at the global scale, at the worldwide level, since interoperability in our domain is quite important to ensure a good acceptability by the global community. All these templates that are listed on the first, all these deliverables which are listed on the first column are supported by templates that we will provide at the project kickoff. There's already in the project handbook, you will find, and also in the multi-annual program, a high-level description of the content expected for each of these deliverables. So you will have a sound and idea of what we expect you to deliver, and so you can plan the appropriate resource and effort to deliver it. In any case, each of these key deliverables, technical deliverables, will be subject to SESAR quality assessment of deliverable, and I will come back to that afterwards, meaning that whenever you deliver a deliverable, we'll assess it, whether it's acceptable, or we'll request you to review that to get it compliant with our expectation. In addition to these technical deliverables, which are expected to support and characterize each SESAR solution, we expect you, as I already introduced today, to have more programmatic deliverable, like a program management plan, including a project schedule, a communication, dissemination, exploitation plan, but also some specific technical elements, programmatic elements which are linked to the SESAR solution, like a SESAR solution description that we need an illustration, and we have a template for that, and also the SESAR solution maturity assessment, which will help to assess what we expect what we plan to do at the last milestone of the program plan, which is the maturity gate. In addition to that, obviously, you will have to comply with the European, the Horizon Europe requirements, and for that, there's at least two technical deliverables, and my colleagues will come back on that, which is the technical report and the financial report. that you will have to generate on an annual basis. Let's focus a little bit on the performance management. Why performance management? Because we are a performance-driven program. Our aim as a technical pillar of the Single European Sky is to improve the performance of the European ATM system. So for that, we have developed a full methodology, and it would be important for you to consider and to be able to demonstrate in your proposal how you will be complying with this performance approach. Mainly by defining the expectation for each, in terms of performance for each SESAR solution, and highlighting how you will address the different performance demonstrations which will be required to secure the correct maturity level, exit maturity level of each of your SESAR solutions. So what is important to understand in this chart is the collaboration that will have to be established between the solution work, the proposal that you should be describing in your proposal, with the transversal project in charge of performance, which is in the middle of the figure which is presented there. So you will be in charge of the proposal, the technical solution proposal will be in charge of the red bullet, I'd say, so point 2, 4, and 5, while the transversal project responsible on performance will be responsible for the blue points 1, 3, and 6. So just to show that this collaboration is important, and it will be secured, animated by us with our support, and both parties will support each proposal project development towards the program delivery. One of the last points on the technical part of the project is really the maturity assessment. So as we already introduced, we expect that for each SESAR solution that will be developed, you will run an exit maturity level to the target maturity level for industrial research, which is normally TRL 6 and TRL 7 for the fast track, and for lower level maturity level TRL 1 or 2 for the exploratory research. And for that, we have some maturity criteria. These maturity criteria are described in the multi-annual program. They are referred to in the project handbook also, so that you have a full understanding of what we mean by that. You can already see in this illustration that any compliance demonstration to element of the maturity criteria has to be done through the justification produced in a technical deliverable. So that's the reason why it's important to understand the technical deliverable, production and maturity and quality because it will secure the maturity assessment. So that the maturity gate is a formal activity run by SESAR-GU, but on which you will have to contribute. So you really need to prepare to plan for preparation for this maturity activity internally in your project and your proposal. So once again, that's required to have some resources available and competence available to perform a good quality maturity assessment, because after that, that's what we will challenge during a specific meeting that we call maturity gate that SESAR-GU will run. So the quality assessment of deliverable, I just want to wrap up a little bit with that, because that's the cornerstone of all the program management activity. You are expecting to do a lot of activities, but the output will be characterized in terms of deliverables, and these deliverables are key for us. So you will submit deliverable to us, and we will assess the maturity, the acceptability, the quality of this deliverable according to different criteria that we have. These criteria are characterized against the objective that we have for the program. And so in order to de-risk the quality of the acceptance of this deliverable, we really invite you to produce and to plan for iterative production of deliverable, starting from initial, intermediate, and full final deliverable. And that's really the key for success. So plans are for that in your proposal, so that we can have confidence that you are ready to play the game or ready to secure the quality of the deliverable that you are aiming to deliver. Not a very important point is also the contribution to standardization and regulatory needs. I insist upon that at the beginning and insisting that at the end also of my presentation, in conjunction with also the performance methodology and the performance needs and performance expectation that we would like you to really consider in the construction of your proposal. Concerning the standardization and regulatory needs, we invite you to consider working with the appropriate standardization office and national authorities and EASA also. As EASA is concerned, we have here developed a kind of, we are coordinated with EASA the best way to consider their potential contribution to any of your proposal. So they can really, when relevant, project can anticipate the contribution of EASA in the grant, in the proposal. As participants, either beneficiary or third party, it is very important. So for that, you can contact them on the email address, which is at the bottom. So at SESAR_request at easaeuropea.eu. You will receive the positive answer to any of your requests to build a complete proposal, considering the scope of your proposal, obviously. So EASA can contribute to a coordination of the review of the safety argumentation, to provide guidance for the support of the safety review, and supporting the approval and endorsement of the safety cases. For example, they can support you also on other domains if you have specific needs, and I'm sure you will receive always a very good response to any request that you will issue to them. Last point. Yes, so last point on program management, which is transversal and which is really very important nowadays in these calls, the two industrial research and exploratory research calls within the European Horizon Europe framework. It's the communication, dissemination, and exploitation. These are really key three pillars that needs to be really considered in any of the proposals. They have been very highly documented in the proposal template. For the one who have already looked at that, they have clearly captured that. We expect already with the proposal a draft on these elements, on these three pillars. This includes sharing information and data between projects. So we don't, as I said before, we don't expect you that you work on a standalone on your corner. Whatever you do is for the benefit of the community. We are aiming to integrate all the work in the SESAR architecture, and so that the data and the information should be circulating and should be disseminated in the appropriate way, considering in any, or as always, the appropriate the intellectual property rights and other elements associated to that. So that concludes my presentation, and I will give the floor to my colleague.
Yes.
No.
Yes, because we are thinking that maybe now we have been talking already for 1 hour and 30 minutes. Maybe you need a short break to stretch your legs. But maybe before stretching our legs, Benoit, please, can already reply to a couple of questions that I see in the chat. I can tell you one already if you want. The one about DSD. Shall I read it to you? So we have a question about the project handbook, and the question is, will the SESAR 3 joint undertaking project handbook also be applicable to the digital sky demonstration projects that will be selected from the CEF pool?
Okay, so we had not the opportunity to include any reference to program management processes within the call material of the DSD. But we intend to correct this as part of the grant preparation phase. So indeed, our objective is to use the project handbook, and you will note in reading the handbook that it also covers the digital sky demonstration activities. So we intend to share this information with the awarded project during the grant preparation phase, to ensure that this type of program management processes will be also applied by the DSD. I think that there was also another question which was related to the fast track. The question was about considering agile methodology per se, or that other model-based system engineering methodologies could also be applied. So first of all, I would like to be clear that the fast track is offering, I insist, offering opportunities to move very quickly from a low TRL up to TRL 7. So the objective is really to provide opportunity to pioneers to be in a position to work in a fast track mode. So indeed, we are quite open regarding the methodology that will be applied. So the word agile needs to be considered in a broader terms of the sense of the terms. However, I would like to be clear as well that within the proposal, you will have to provide convincing arguments that the methodology that you will apply will ensure performing the fast-track innovation and using quick prototyping and fast iterations. So we are okay in looking to different types of methodologies, but again, we want to ensure they range very quickly from low TRL up to high TRL, and therefore, in your proposal, please ensure that you bring the convincing arguments that will confirm the application of your methodology.
Data pack?
Okay.
Data pack with answer.
You did? Okay.
So there was another question about the data pack, so it has been answered.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Okay. So there is a question about the maturity gate. So are intermediate maturity gate required when moving from TRL 0 to TRL 4, for example?
We will not have what we have used so far in the 2020 program, an intermediate maturity gate. What we plan is to have project review at which we will assess the progress in terms of maturity of each SESAR solution, but could be considered as an independent maturity gate terms that we use in the past. So you will not find in the project handbook reference to intermediate maturity gate.
Okay. There was a question about UTM system is eligible. This was referred to presentation of Thomas Redo.
So, honestly, what will be eligible will be what will be defined in the proposal and awarded. So far, UTM per se, we cannot state that it is eligible or not. We can consider it as part of the technical content. I mean by this that we can consider UTM system as a way to consider use space, but I would like to highlight that we are in Europe and that our policy and our vision is use space and not necessarily UTM. So please ensure that you cope with the European vision about use space and UAM.
Okay. And then there was a question for work area 6.
Alfredo, there is a question regarding the air ground integration. You have seen the question? Are you able to answer to this one?
Yeah, I saw the question from Jonas, I think, on the low-level digital connectivity for aircraft. But yeah. I was wondering if he was referring to working area 6 or working area 3. Working area 6 is more on the phase C. And this is basically trying to complete the work that has been done so far in Project 34 in SESAR 2020. In principle, there is no issue of addressing those type of things. My question was I was wondering whether his question is more for working area 6 or other areas like in use space, for example, or fast tracks. But in principle, it's not that there is no problem at all. It is in the scope.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Then we also have a question. One SESAR solution per work package. Can you clarify because it says, I guess, transversal work package like project management or CDE are not affected by these requirements.
Indeed.
Of course, yes. There is no solution, there is no requirement.
Exactly.
Yes. So.
If there's a SESAR solution, we request that the SESAR solution work is, for each SESAR solution, is scoped in one work package. But that means that there is not, in addition, transversal work package like for program management, for communication dissemination exploitation activities, ethics, and other stuff that are necessary. But the work of one SESAR solution should be inside one work package. That's what we are.
Okay. Okay. I think that we can conclude. Well, Benoit, we have a follow-up on UTM, just so that we can close.
Yeah.
Okay, we can come back in the next question, in the next session about Q&A. There is a question in the Q&A that they are mentioning. Okay. There are other 4 questions in the Q&A. I suggest that we take 5-minute break.
Yeah.
We stretch our legs. We have a look at the questions so that we get a bit of time to reflect. And we are back in 5 minutes, so 11:05, with the presentation on call evaluation and procedures. Thanks a lot. See you in 5 minutes. So welcome back to everybody. I hope you hear me well. I think you should. So we will continue with the presentation. So now it's my turn to present, and I'm going to present you the some rules about call evaluation and procedures. So I will start with just with an overview of the timeline. So you know these are the two calls. We have the exploratory research and industrial research and validation, including fast-track innovation uptake topics. Here you see the kind of detailed timeline that we plan. What is interesting for you, of course, is the call deadline, which is the 13th of October. And then you will see also when we plan to have our evaluation that, as you know, is divided in remote and central. And then we plan to open GAP, so the grant agreement preparation that was mentioned by Serge, by mid-February. And we will have to have all projects signed by mid-June 2023. I give you here also a table summarizing the topics, the work areas that have been already presented in detail by my colleagues, with also the budget allocation, which implies that all the topics belonging to the work area will share the budget that you see there. But all this information, and actually anything I'm saying is included in the biannual work program that you have published among the core documents. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to scroll quite quickly because we don't want to lose too much time on this, on the evaluation rules, and also on the important information you need when you prepare a proposal, knowing that all this information is based on the standard slides and standard presentations that have been provided in different fora on Horizon Europe. Because we are funded by Horizon Europe, so these are the rules. I will just point you on some specific conditions that we have included in our call, which are also in line with the Horizon Europe provisions. So the first thing that we always check when we start an evaluation is the admissibility. What is important for you to remember about admissibility? That admissibility refers to applications that are submitted, first of all, in time. They are submitted electronically via the funding and tender portal, and that they are complete, readable, accessible, and printable, though we are saving our trees and we don't want to print. And very important, they need to include a plan for the exploitation and dissemination of results, which was already mentioned by Serge as an important condition. I want to stress that Horizon Europe, more than Horizon 2020, stressed the importance of dissemination and exploitation. So make sure that this element is very clear in your proposal. In Horizon 2020, we have seen proposals where this plan was just 3 lines in the proposal. We don't want to see that. We want to see a proper plan. So make effort, take your time to already think ahead of what you think are going to be the measures for disseminating and exploiting results. Then a very important point to remember, which is a difference compared to Horizon 2020. So this applies to all people that have already worked in Horizon 2020, is that there has been a substantial reduction in maximum number of pages. So you have to be concise. Make sure that your proposal focuses only on the elements that are important for evaluators. Don't copy and repeat information that is somewhere else. Make sure that you only put information that is specific to your proposal and is going to make a difference. Because the limit for a full application for research, innovation action, and innovation actions is 45 pages. And for the CSAs, it's 30 pages. And that an important novelty in Horizon 2020 is that the excess pages now will appear blank. So evaluators will not be able to read anything else that you write after the 45 pages. The system will inform you about that. You will have a warning, but it's not a blocking message. So make sure that you read all the warnings that you receive from the submission system. Then another thing that we check is, of course, eligibility. What are the eligibility rules? We apply standard rules, and these are about consortium composition. Must be at least one independent legal entity established in a member state for research, innovation action, and at least 2 other independent legal entities, each established in a different member state or an associated country. Where do you see the list of member states? All this information is in the portal. Well, you might know mostly about associated country. I will come back to the point. Again, on this, you will receive a warning from the system, so you will know. There is a novelty in Horizon 2020, which might sound maybe really new for some of you, but this is for public bodies, research organizations, or higher education establishments. For member states and associated countries, they must have a gender equality plan. Now, at this stage of the proposal, a self-declaration will be requested. So you will have to self-declare that this entity will has a gender equality plan, and this is going to be also included in the validation process for the moment. Then another point is the eligibility for funding, because the point before was eligibility for participation. Now we talk about eligibility for funding. So who is eligible for funding? And this brings me also to the question that I see in the chat about Swiss companies. So eligible for funding are EU countries, so member states and OCT linked to member states. Non-EU countries, whenever they are associated to Horizon Europe, or they are low and middle income countries. For this list, you have to see there is a link in the presentation, the Horizon Europe program guide. Then we have specific cases, which are affiliated entities established in countries eligible for funding, EU bodies, and international organizations, namely international European research organizations that are eligible for funding. The others are not eligible for funding unless the participation is essential, and this is decided during the evaluation. Concerning Switzerland, the latest information we have is that for the moment they are not eligible for funding, and they will participate in the, they can participate, but they will not participate requesting funding. This is at least the latest information that we have, but we will go back to this question. We will publish it in the question and answers document, and for that we will double check with the legal service within the European Commission. Then, talking about associated countries, there is also indeed another country which is of interest in the discussions lately, which is the UK. And UK is expected to become an associated country to Horizon Europe, which means that for the moment they can take part in the first call for proposals, and then it will be seen at the time of the grant signature what is the status. Because if by then they will be associated, then the status is of a country that can participate and is eligible for funding. If not, then we will see, and something will have to be done at the time of the grant agreement, whether they will participate with no funding, or I mean, an option will be found. Because the idea is that, at least so far, with the information we have, UK is associating to the full Horizon Europe program, with the exception of the EIC fund. Now, this was about entities eligible for funding, but what are the activities eligible for funding? The eligible activities are the ones described in the call conditions, so what you have in the call description. A very important horizontal limitation is that activities must focus only on civil applications and must not aim at anything which relates to cloning and other things related to human embryos, which is not really in line with our call. So I let it here just because it's an obligation, but for us, it's mostly the issue about civil applications. Then I see a question about affiliated entities linked to affiliated entities. I will take this question for the session in the end, if you allow me, because I will have to double check with the official documents. Now, another important information is about the maximum funding rate. We apply standard rates for the exploratory research call, so it's 100% for CSA and 100% for RIA. But for industrial research, very important to note that we have a specific funding rate, and this is 70% regardless of the type of legal entity. Now let's have a look at the specific call conditions with an important caveat. I put here only the specific call conditions that are relevant to have a discussion, Everything you need to know is in the call document, which is, as we always said, in the portal. So this is not a full list, but I just put what is a bit more relevant now. So first of all, the award criteria. So the award criteria, also known as evaluation criteria, we have specific ones. And our specific evaluation criteria, they are in the biannual work program. Then additional dissemination exploitation obligations are foreseen for this call, because as Serge was mentioning, we really care a lot about dissemination exploitation. So please make sure that you look the specific conditions that are included in the work program, because we have added some new ones. Then also another element is the project duration. The project duration for exploratory research call for RIA is 30 months, including 6 months at the end for dissemination. For projects having participated or participating in Horizon 2020, you know it's already the case. So we follow the practice we have used in the year 4 call. And for CSA is 48 months. We also included a specific type of list of deliverables expected. As Serge was mentioning, this is also in the work program. And another element, because you might be participating in other projects, and the integration of gender dimension is not a mandatory requirement. I see a question about SME. SME can lead a consortium. Being an SME doesn't mean anything less or more compared to other entities. So the eligibility in terms of participation does not really look at the nature of the legal entity, whether it's a no-profit, profit, SME, or public entity. The only important point I would mention about SME is what used to be known as operational capacity, which is now embedded in the implementation criterion. So just make sure that the SME presents convincing arguments about the solidity of the way they work. But there is otherwise no limitation, so they can be coordinators. The 70% rate I was mentioning is covering the cost. So it means that you have a budget, you have your costs, and you will be reimbursed only for 70% of this cost. This 30% extra will be paid by you. And for industrial research, the 70% is applicable to all type of actions, regardless of the legal entity. So for question that I see, non-profit entities, they still get 70%. So this is an exception. So we are not applying the standard rules. For industrial research call, we have 70% funding rate for all type of actions and all type of entity. SMEs, they can get 100% funding if they participate to the exploratory research call in a RIA or in a CSA. Now there is a question about cash contribution, but this I will leave it probably to Cathy, and we will take it later. Okay, I think we can move. So these were the specific conditions for exploratory research call. Now we go to the specific call conditions for industrial research call. First of all, the evaluation criteria. Not only they are specific and they are in the biannual work plan as we mentioned before, but there is also a weighting. Second difference is that the evaluation committee might be composed also by internal experts, so this is an information you need to have. Again, as I mentioned, funding rate of 70% applies to all beneficiaries. There will be additional dissemination and exploitation obligations. And then we have included the mechanism of the so-called linked actions, meaning that funded projects will be linked to each other and to SESAR 2020 Work 2 and 3 projects. It means that the projects will have to stipulate between them a collaboration agreement. Is it something that you really need to worry now? Yes and no, in the sense now you need to make sure that you prepare a proposal with in mind already the connection with the other projects, that you already start discussion. Once you are funded, then you will have, before the signature, you will have to sign a collaboration agreement. It's some sort of consortium agreement, but instead of being within the consortium, it's across consortia. Maximum project duration for IR is 36 months. for all type of topics. There is also a list of specific deliverables. The integration of gender dimension is also not a mandatory requirement in our call. And only for fast-track to innovation topics, we have an exception. Purchase of equipment can be full capitalized cost. So this is an exception compared to Horizon 2020, standard practice, and to standard practice as well in Horizon Europe. Now, the evaluation process is always the same. We have individual evaluation, then experts meet and they discuss, then there is a panel review, and then we finalize. So it's the standard approach. We have, as usual, an ethics review. What is the difference with Horizon 2020? We try to make it a bit lighter, you will see. And mostly we will focus on most complex cases, and we'll try to reduce the number of ethics requirements in funded projects. The slides will be shared. Remy put already a link in the very beginning of the chat, but we will put this in the frequent asked questions document that we will publish on the funding and tender portal. So not only the slides will be published, the recording will be published at the link that was given by Remy, but we will also, all these questions will be collected and all the answers will be put and polished, and we will publish it in the portal. Now, a novelty compared to your Horizon 2020 is that now we have a security scrutiny. This security scrutiny is, let's say, generated in your case, in our course, in case applicants, so in case you decide in your self-assessment that there are security issues. So we believe that our call and our topics do not really generate issues related to security. However, this is something that is left as well to applicants in the self-assessment. Make sure that you are very clear when you make the self-assessment, because what you say there is going to probably trigger an in-depth security scrutiny, which is a very heavy procedure. So I would suggest that you read all the provisions and you make sure that you do not tick it if you're not really sure about that. Then that was all from my side. I think so it was quite quick. I see a question about 25% overhead, and since the next speaker is Cathy on financial issues, I think that I will leave it to Cathy. So thank you for your attention, and now I give the floor to Cathy, and I will move the slides for you.
Thank
Cathy,
you.
are you with us? Yes.
Yes, you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Clear.
You don't hear me? Okay.
No, we hear you fine.
Good morning, everybody. Maybe I will first do the presentation and then reply to the questions, or yeah, it will be best. I will go very quickly through the slide because they are relatively detailed, but I advise the financial people and all of you to read them very carefully, as well as the information that is given in the annotated grant agreement and on the portal. It will help you a lot to complete correctly the financial annex of the proposal, and it's very important. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact the functional email box that I think Manuela will give you shortly. Then we can go to the first slide, Manuela. Thank you. There are 5 cost categories, and it's really important to understand quite good how this cost category means. You have personnel cost, you have subcontracting cost, purchase cost, and other cost category, and then the indirect costs. I also would like to stress the importance of declaring the cost in the right cost categories in order to avoid audit corrections, which can have very heavy consequences and represent significant amounts. As we will see later, the indirect costs represent a fixed rate of 25% on this cost, except subcontracting costs and financial support to third parties. Then the indirect cost will be automatically 25% of personnel cost, purchase cost, and other cost category except financial support to third party. Then I think that it reply to one of the question. The 70% will be calculated on the total cost, the personnel cost plus subcontracting plus purchase plus other cost category plus the flat rate of 25%, and you will receive a co-financing of 70% on these total costs. If, for example, you put a cost in the personnel cost when it is subcontracting cost, this will have an impact on the indirect costs because subcontracting costs are excluded from the calculation of the indirect cost, and also as a consequence on the total cost, and therefore this will reduce the co-financing and will result in a recovery by the SESAR 3 JU. These recoveries, please really be careful because this recovery could be very important. We can go to the next slide, Manuela, please. For the category of personnel, you will have here the detailed category of personnel. Just one important thing. When we talk about person under direct contract, it could be a consultant, but in-house consultant. We had the case before where there was a direct contract with a consultant, but due to COVID crisis, the consultant worked from home, and the auditors rejected totally this cost. Then be careful. The next 5 slides, I propose to pass them really rapidly because it's an example of how to calculate the personnel costs, and go directly to the slide about subcontracting. Okay, thank you. Subcontracting is really very important to understand subcontracting and to ensure best value for money. And also subcontracting between beneficiaries and affiliates is not allowed. Also, the estimated cost of subcontracting must be identified in the budget and in Annex 1 of the proposal. There is a way to have this cost, if not foreseen in the annex of the proposal, but the risk of rejection is really very high. We can go to the next slide. The purchase cost, yes, which may cover travel cost, accommodation, equipment, other goods, the cost also for the certificate on financial statements, such costs. But be aware that they must be declared as actual costs and not estimates. And also ensure best value for money. For example, don't take a private flight to go, I don't know, to another European country. It will be rejected for sure. Next slide.
Yeah, Cathy, maybe somebody's asking quickly an example of subcontracting between beneficiaries. If you want, I can say something here.
Yeah.
So subcontracting between beneficiaries, imagine you have a consortium, there are 5 beneficiaries, so there is Mr. A and Mr. B, and during the project, Mr. A, coordinator, subcontract to Mr. B. So meaning that the budget will be in the budget of Mr. A, and the work is performed by Mr. B. This is not possible because Mr. B is in the consortium, is a beneficiary, is appearing as a budget line, so they have to claim their costs and they have to perform the work and claim the related costs within the project. So this is an example of subcontracting between beneficiaries, which is forbidden, as it was in Horizon 2020. So I go ahead, Cathy, to the next slide.
Yeah. For the certificate on financial statements, the threshold compared to H2020 project is really higher. Is in place of 325 is 430,000. And also there is a special case and a special threshold for the beneficiary who have a system and process audit. But if you want more detail about it, please go in the annotated grant agreement, Article 24, to be aware of what that means. Now, the indirect cost, we already talk about it. Then the indirect cost is on the total direct cost, except subcontracting and financial support to third party. Be also really careful about third party. You have a list of authorized, I will say, third party in the portal. Please check that the third party you wanted to ask some work, it's in the list. Next one is the in-kind contribution to operational activities for the members only. The ICOP contrary on H2020 will be calculated automatically in the portal, in the tool, and it shall consist of the total eligible cost minus the contribution of SESAR 3JU. And this ICOP will be audited like all the other costs in the projects. I think that's it from my side.
Maybe
now,
just add one thing on ICOP because we test the call submission. Just important to remember that it is automatically calculated in the sense that there is an automatic mechanism, but you, in the proposal, you have the possibility to include the data. So it's not a value that comes out. You have to put it manually in the table. You will see when you will start the application. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, it's an important element. Thank you, Manuela.
Yeah. You're welcome. Okay, so I think you replied to the questions that were mostly for you. In any case, we continue.
There is only one question for industrial research. One question is funding rate for a non-profit entity.
We replied that it's clear that 70% for all.
Yeah,
70%
for all.
Because it's we have an exception. So I think
there is no possibility for SME to obtain 100% funding.
Yeah, I mean, in exploratory research call, yes, not in IR.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, that's it from my side.
Depends on the call. So basically, the rate in our case depends on the call. Because if it's IR, it's 70%. If it's ER, it's 100% because we have only two types of actions, and these two types of actions in ER are all for 100%.
Yeah,
okay,
and
yes.
If I may, Manuela, just one thing. We will certainly have a dedicated meeting on how to report before the first reporting period and to guide all the beneficiary on how to fill it in like we did for H2020.
Yes, indeed. I mean, now we are still in the application phase, so it's important that you keep in mind these messages that Cathy was giving so that you make a proposal which is going to be solid, also from the implementation point of view. Then, of course, the moment you are funded, then we will have a dedicated guidance during GAP and the kickoff and for the reporting. I see a question about linked third parties, which is interesting. And which relates maybe more to my presentation. So what used to be linked third parties in Horizon Europe, they are called affiliated entities. Same concept, is just linked to, is more in line with financial regulations. Okay, then I will move now to my next presentation. And don't worry that we are taking notes of all the questions. We are going to reply in the dedicated session so that we don't lose the flow. So the next presentation is going to be very short, and it's a bit more hands-on. It's about things to remember before preparing your proposal, when preparing your proposal, and before submitting. So first of all, finding information. Where do you find information? And this links me also to a question I saw in the chat about the handbook not being available in the SESAR website. So you find all relevant call documentation on the Funding and Tenders Opportunities portal. The link is in the slide. What is important is that in the portal you will also find presentations on Horizon Europe. So whenever you have the questions and doubts about the, for instance, the new definitions, the entities, so things that are a bit broader and not just related to SESAR, you can have a look at all the different webinars and presentations that have been given, and all the links are there in the Funding and Tender portal. So where do you find our calls? You go in the portal, very basic, you write SESAR in the search engine, and then you will end up somewhere here that you see in the slide. So then what you do is that you click on one topic, you click on topic, conditions, and documents, you expand on the show more, and you will end up in a list of eligibility, admissibility, conditions, etc. And then you have to go a bit down, and you will see that there is a section called documents, and that's where you find all the documents. So you find, first of all, the templates that were mentioned by Luca at the very first presentation, that are also in the call submission system. Then you will find the model grant agreement, which is linked to what Cathy was mentioning. And then you will find the famous biannual work program, which is, by the way, also published on our website and very broadly advertised. You will find the multi-annual work program and the SESAR 3 project handbook. So you will see here the link, and the link will lead you directly to the document. Then, how do you find support? In the portal, you will have a dedicated part, which is called support. When you click on it, you have different options. One of them is guidance and manuals, and I really recommend you to take your time. We have, I have to say, quite an interesting time from now until the call deadline. I would invite you to take your time to read all the documents, the online manual, and the frequent asked questions for questions that have already been asked and that are a bit more horizontal on Horizon Europe. You also have another option, which is the one that was mentioned by Cathy, which is to ask us a question. So you will see here, this is our email. You can ask us any question. We will reply to you in the form of a document with the frequent asked questions. This document will be already published very soon with all the questions that we are collecting in this Infoday. And then we will update it with questions that you will send us by email. And then for equal treatment, we will publish the reply for everybody in the portal via this document. So in summary, what do you need to do? To read all relevant documentation on the portal, consult the guidance on proposal submission, and send your question to us whenever you have still doubts. Preparing your proposal, you need to remember a couple of things. Well, first of all, as you know, everything is electronic. So what do you need to electronic submission? You need to enter in the tool. You need to do online include your information for the administrative form and upload the technical annex. Very important, do not wait for the last minute. Just an information based on experience in Horizon 2020, there was a submission failure rate of 1%. This 1% was only related to the fact that people were waiting for the last minute. There were technical problems, the upload was not working, and they were trying to reach the help desk 5 minutes before deadline, which was, as you can imagine, not the success story. So in summary, for the preparing a proposal, make sure that you are familiar with the topic description, read all documentation, follow the proposal template. This is also important, seems trivial, but it's important because we have put in the template the guidance for you, so make sure that you follow it. Cover all evaluation criteria and sub-criteria, plan well your resources, and do not forget the importance of dissemination activities, as we mentioned already in the previous presentation. So that's it from my side and from all of us. I think now it's time to reply to questions. So we start with replying. How do we proceed? I can take.
Share the
Okay. So just give us a...
So I will quickly come back on the question about the UTM, and the question was, is UTM system eligible? I think this requires further investigation inside the SGU, because honestly, personally, I would have some difficulties to propose funding for United States systems, and I refer to European Commission or European funding to a United States system. So I propose that we keep these questions for the time being between brackets. Anyway, as stated by Manuela, we will answer in a nicely way to each of these questions, and we will share this answer with all of you. So it requires a further formal legal investigation on that topic. I think there was a question about DOZ in industrial research, but sorry, in exploratory research, but not in industrial research. Serge?
Yeah, so the rationale for that is that so in the industrial research, we are referring to a technical deliverable called SPR-interop/OZ, which which means that in this technical deliverable, the one part of this document is the OZ, the operational service and environmental description. Why not in exploratory research? Why in exploratory research just the OZ? Is because at exploratory research level, the project and the solution will not be able to develop the associated safety and performance requirements or integrity requirements, which should characterize the solution at a higher maturity level. So that's why there's this slight difference in terms of between exploratory research and industrial research.
Okay, I take one, which is about, I replied also in the chat. So yes, it is possible when you prepare your proposal to modify it every time you want until the last moment. So basically, even when you click on submit, doesn't mean that this is the final version that we will be sealed. It means that you will have time to modify it, and you can even withdraw it. So the last version that will count is the last version that you modified in the tool before call deadline. Then there is a question about kickoff meeting date and official version of grant agreement. For kickoff meeting date, we cannot tell you now because we don't know. I will just maybe point you at my initial slides with the timing. So we plan to start well, we have in mind that it might be possible to sign the first grant by April 2023, but again, this depends on how quick you are, how good you are, how good was your proposal, how everything is okay. So let's say April, May, meaning that project might start around May, June, meaning that the kickoff meeting will take place around May, June. Then you're also asking about when you can have access to the official version of the grant agreement. This is already available. So if you go in the portal and if you see the topic documentation that I was mentioning, in each topic, there is also a link to model grant agreement. The model grant agreement is the one that is applicable and is already there and is already approved. And then there is a question about, are the reports VLP, VAR, CDA plan going to be drafted by these stakeholders autonomously or in collaboration with SGU?
And so any technical deliverable should be initiated and drafted by the project. As I introduced, we are expecting and we are encouraging you to propose intermediate deliverable, so initial version, intermediate version, and final version of this deliverable, and so that we can perform an assessment of this deliverable and provide you with the feedback and the comments, guidance, in order to improve the quality of this deliverable gradually all along the last time of the project or the solution.
Then I have a question about how strict will be the maximum expected EU contribution of a project. Will a proposal amount over the expected indicative budget be considered as a negative point in the proposal evaluation? So it is indicated in the call conditions that the maximum expected EU contribution is indicative, meaning that proposals might request a different amount. However, it's very important to make sure that whatever you propose in terms of budget is well justified in the proposal. So the budget is not just an envelope. The budget corresponds to the activities that you are doing and corresponds to also to the quality of the activities you are doing. So everything is related. So yes, there is a flexibility, and it's not a negative point in itself, but of course it's a negative point when a budget does not correspond to the activities and is not justified. It's very important that you justify the budget. Okay, anybody else wants to take a question? There was a question about INCO, maybe. That was, yes, it was about international cooperation. We did not, in our course, we did not include any specific criterion or any specific condition related to international cooperation besides the standard one, meaning that participation is welcome as long as this is in line with the activities and is justified for the purpose of the topic. So for that, there is no specificity for international cooperation. And also you were saying, is it nice to have? Again, it depends. Okay, the link of the participant portal is going to be in the slides. So you will see it in the slides. But honestly, if you go in Google and you write funding and tenders portal, it will come out. So you will see.
There is also a question, Manuela, about the certification cost for use-based services.
Yes. So these costs, they are again eligible as long as they correspond to the eligibility rules for cost, which in Horizon Europe are not different from Horizon 2020. So what is important is that you budget these costs already in your proposal. So this cost will have to be paid by the consortium to the entity which is providing the certification whenever this is required. And this is going to be paid as long as this is already included in the budget of the consortium. So these are not costs that are coming from another source. They will have to be included in the budget. And then I see a question about whether R&D institutions are eligible to participate. Again, eligibility rules, they are linked to... Sorry, I will mute.
So eligibility.
Voilà. So eligibility rules, they refer to the whether these entities, they are in a member state or associated country. And this eligibility is not linked to the fact whether they are R&D or no profit or profit. So this does not imply limitations to eligibility. So R&D institutions are eligible to participate in our call, as it was the case for Horizon 2020. There is absolutely no change. And if yes, they will receive 70% funding in IR topic, indeed, because the IR topics, they are specific. And then there is a question about program management. Yes, the presentation was applicable to both, to ER call and IR call. Whenever there are some specificities, you can find them in the definition, because there was, for instance, a list of deliverables, and there is the link on when is applicable to what. but in broad sense, they are applicable to both calls. Yes. I will try to scroll a bit up to make sure that we do not miss anything.
There was a question about cash contribution.
I don't know if Cathy wants to reply on cash contribution.
Yes, but I don't understand the question. Is it cash contribution to be paid to the SESAR 3 JU or cash contribution that we pay? I don't understand the question.
Okay, let's
The SAU is only for the members, and it's defined in the Single Basic Act, the amount of the cash contribution.
Okay, then I see also a question about under which category should we declare out-house consultant?
Subcontracting.
Yes, mostly. Indeed. Then there are some, it's the same as Horizon 2020, so there are some specificities depending on the way the work is performed, whether it is autonomously or whether it is under the direction of the beneficiary. So it might still be like a service, but this is a bit more specific question. We will reply in writing, but indeed, like this, bluntly, it looks more like subcontracting, but we will come back to this question with all the options that are foreseen by the model grant agreement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Then there was a question about cascade affiliated entities, and well, I see actually a worry about linked third parties. So linked third parties, as I said, now they are called affiliated entities. What does it mean in terms of what is the impact? In reality, the impact is that now it's a bit easier to use them because the definition is a bit broader. So it's a broader definition compared to what used to be in linked third parties for Horizon 2020, and also it is more in line with the standard financial regulations of possibilities. Now, an affiliated entity to an affiliated entity, I have to admit, that sounds to me not really something that I would see. I would see an affiliated entity to the beneficiary. So they are all appearing as affiliated entities, because basically when you make your submission, you will have to decide in the participant step whether you are a beneficiary or an affiliated entity. So the affiliated entity, either it is linked to an affiliated entity or to a beneficiary, it's still an affiliated entity. So in the end, it doesn't change. So I would say it will be just included as an affiliated entity, and that's it. And the same rules are valid for affiliated entities as to full beneficiaries. Absolutely, that's the idea. They have the same rules, and the difference with Horizon 2020, they will be able to include their costs directly in the tool now. So they are really belonging to the project the same way as beneficiaries in terms of rights and obligations. Okay, let's see if we have other questions. Can subcontracting costs to entities non-established in the EU or associated countries be eligible? This is a very good question. I would say in principle, no, because the rule about funding to non-fundable entities is a rule that is applicable to the whole program. And then the fact that you are going to subcontract part of the activity to an entity which is normally not eligible for funding can be seen as a way to turn around the rule. So this is something that we have already explored in Horizon 2020 with advice of the legal service of the Commission. The answer was indeed no. For Horizon Europe, of course, we don't have already a case, but I can say that mutatis mutandis, I would apply the same principle, and the answer is mostly no. The subcontractors, do they need to be communicated in advance? This is a good question. At the time of proposing your application, so when doing your proposal, you need to put as much information as you have at that time. We know that at the time of the application, which is, for instance, in September, you might not know yet the names of the subcontractors, especially when you are following the rules and you are doing a procedure. So it is not important to receive the names at the time of the application. It is very important that you specify which tasks are going to be performed by the subcontractors, because this is something that is going to be assessed already at evaluation. then it is important that you have the names at the time of gap. If you already have the names, again, you might not have them yet, but it's very important to have the names is at the time of the reporting. So to reply to your question, you need to communicate the names as long as you have them. What you really need to tell us is what they are going to do. So the tasks of this subcontracting. The information about categories of eligible costs, this is available in the model grant agreement. So in the link that you find in the portal, and in the funding and tender portals where there are some slides. For instance, there is an interesting webinar that was about Horizon Europe grant agreement preparation for coordinators. An affiliated entity can participate as an affiliated entity in one proposal and as a beneficiary in another one. Yes, this is possible. And then I see a question about third parties to the project, contributing to the project to receive financial support. So indeed, that's a good question. This refers only to one topic in our call, which is the KTN. So this is work area 3 of expertise research call. It is the only one where we have activated the financial support to third countries, financial support to third parties. It means the so-called cascade granting, means that you will be able to, for instance, fund PhD students, which was the case for Horizon 2020 KTN topic, and it's going to probably to be something similar. The so-called cascade granting. It is not allowed in IR. So you don't have financial support to third parties in IR projects, or in ER, work area 3, KTN topic. Okay. Okay. So what do? We stop? We see a couple of questions about, well, I see a question about cost stuff, which could include incentivization for the project team. We need to come back on that question because we need to think a bit. Subcontracting costs, they are paid again with the reimbursement rate if you are applying for IR call. So you have the subcontractor gives you a cost. You put this cost in the budget. This cost is a cost for you, and it is reimbursed by the EU, so by SESAR, at the rate of 70% in case you are in IR, or in 100% if you are in exposure research. So it's always the same mechanism. International cooperation, I thought I replied to that question. It is not explicitly foreseen in our call, so we do not have a specific mechanism for international cooperation. It is nice to have only if this is in line with the topic description. So it's not nice to have tout court, just to put international cooperation. It's nice to have only when it makes sense. When it makes sense to have a proposal that is involving international partners because you are replying to a question which requires the participation of international partners. Okay. Okay, I see a question about subcontracting. We will come back on this because it's a bit more specific about the selection procedure. I'm going to quickly scroll to see if there is any burning question that was coming back and back. The same mentioned deliverables and validation also for fast track innovation approach.
Yeah, as we said, for both industrial research, standard ones and the fast track ones, we have the same set of technical deliverables to be produced in the proposal and in the project.
Okay. Okay, we reached almost 12, it's 11:59. I see a question coming back, which is about cross-cutting. Okay, so this is coming back. So maybe I will take this one. It's about the cross-cutting on non-aviation solutions. So it's true that in Horizon Europe, like in Horizon 2020, there is always an emphasis on cross-cutting issues, because it's important that you take care of horizontal aspects that are cross-cutting, typically in Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe as well. For instance, social sciences and humanities, responsible research and innovation, international cooperation, etc. So it's true that these are elements that are always promoted by research. However, it's extremely important that you link any solution, any action to the specific description of the topic. So to the specific work that you have to do linked to the topic description. So yes, they might be considered as an edit point, but whenever this is in line with the topic described in the work program. Membership agreement?
No idea for the time being, so we are not able to answer right now. We will look at it and we'll reply in the Q&A.
About the timeline on when it's going to be available to members.
Cash contribution?
Cash contribution we reply.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so 1201. I think that it was a very intense meeting, especially at the end. I think that it's nice to see that you got very much motivated about our topics and especially our mechanisms. So we will, as I said, we will publish the recording and the presentation in the link that was already given by Remy at the very top of the chat, but in any case, you will see it's going to be advertised in the SESAR website. We are going to publish the frequent asked questions in the portal as well. So we are going to reply to all of them, make sure that we reply to all of them and polish them. We are going to, we have recorded the meeting. We thank you very much for your attention. We hope that this meeting was informative enough. And we wish you a very good continuation, and we wish you to prepare a good proposal. So we also expect questions from you in our info box. Thank you very much, and have a nice continuation of the day, a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye. Bye. Ciao.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.